The Ohio Education Act, a new law set to change some rules on Ohio's college campuses, is set to take effect at the end of the month. Michael Sandlin talked to a local professor and a state politician who are on opposite sides of the issue. Michael.
Melissa, whether this new law is a necessity or a nuisance depends on who you ask. Toledo professor Sam Nelson says the bill is going to have professors thinking twice before talking about anything controversial. But State Rep Josh Williams says the law actually opens up conversation.
It's been a concern to faculty. It's been a concern to students.
University professors like to misinterpret this actual piece of legislation.
Since being signed into law back in March, the Ohio Education Act has been controversial, to say the least. The law is set to make multiple changes to how college campuses operate, and Josh Williams and Sam Nelson are split on good portions of it. They disagree when it comes to the removal of so-called DEI-based hiring practices and DEI scholarships. Williams thinks DEI initiatives are limiting.
And you can get to the same goal by targeting the groups that we disproportionately make up. And that's what we're doing with our legislation. You can get to the same outcome without using discriminatory policies.
But Nelson says in the process, they're throwing out essential programs.
We're also seeing schools start to close things like their Women's Center or LGBTQ centers, multicultural centers. So we've seen that in the news from around the state.
Williams says professors across the state abuse their ability to strike, so the law will limit collective bargaining.
I personally don't believe that the future of our college students in the state of Ohio should be a bargaining chip for your negotiation.
But Nelson says he's not even certain the law will make a difference, at least for a while, as most professors have active contracts to protect their collective bargaining.
So it might be a few years down the road as new contracts are negotiated before we start to see what the consequences of limits on collective bargaining might be.
But where the two are most divided is the belief state colleges have been pushing an ideology on campuses, with the law now intending to open up schools to more, quote, intellectual diversity.
We should all agree that you should not be required to support a particular political viewpoint in order to pass a class.
What I would respond, I think, to people who think that this opens up free speech is that, in fact, faculty are already doing what the bill asks us to do.
Williams says this is free speech returning to campuses, calling it a return to the principles of the founders. But Nelson worries it'll have the opposite effect. Things like syllabuses will now be public record, and he's worried teachers will now be forced to change their classes because the public will say that what they're teaching is too left or too right, when all he wants is a good discussion. In studio, I'm Michael Sandlin for WTOL 11.